There's a moment you don't see coming. It's quiet, no lightning bolt, no dramatic music, just stillness. And in that stillness, you see something you can't unsee. A crack, not in the wall, not in the world, but in you. It's subtle at first, a weird moment of déjà vu, a sudden disconnection in the middle of a conversation. That strange feeling when someone calls your name and it doesn't feel like yours. You brush it off, but something inside you whispers, "This isn't who you are. This isn't where you're meant to be." Something is off. The mirror starts to shimmer, and what you see staring back at you feels unfamiliar, like a role you've been playing so well you forgot it was a performance. That's when the loop starts unraveling, because once the mirror cracks, you can't pretend anymore. From the beginning, you were told who to be. Before you even had language, you were being shaped. She's so quiet. He's the responsible one. They're just dramatic. Words became definitions. Definitions became roles. Roles became a mask so tight, you forgot what your own skin felt like underneath. Maybe you were always the strong one, or the one who never needed help, the good girl, the tough guy, the one who had it together. But you didn't choose that identity. It was assigned, crafted out of your environment, molded by trauma, reinforced by repetition. They said, "You're so mature for your age." Translation? We needed you to be an adult before you were ready. They praised your independence, but ignored the way you cried in silence because needing someone felt like weakness. And when you did speak your truth, they told you you were too much, too sensitive, too intense. So you shrank, or you hardened, or you built a version of yourself that could pass as acceptable. That version, that illusion, is the one you dressed every day, took selfies with, apologized on behalf of, but it's not you, not fully, not anymore. Because now you're noticing the cracks. That moment when you say yes but feel a scream inside. When you smile but your eyes go flat. When you succeed and still feel hollow. These are not flaws. These are leaks. The true self trying to seep through the role. Reflection. Who would you be if no one was watching? Who would you be if approval didn't exist? Take a moment. Really let that land. You didn't fail to become your best self. You've been succeeding at becoming someone else's projection, but now, the projection is starting to glitch. And in that glitch, your real self is trying to make contact. You didn't just look into mirrors, you lived in them, reflected versions of yourself back to the people who needed you to be something, and every time you made them feel seen, you disappeared a little more. That's the part no one warns you about, how easy it is to become a ghost in your own life while playing the role that earns you love. You start as a child just trying to be good, trying to be liked, trying not to be abandoned, so you mirror what gets rewarded and hide what gets punished. If your laughter made them happy, you learned to perform joy on command. If your silence kept the peace, you swallowed your voice to avoid chaos. You learned that being seen often meant being shaped, and the shaping felt like safety. Until it didn't. Now you're older, and something feels off. You get quiet in crowds that used to feel like home. You look in the mirror and sometimes you feel like you're looking at a stranger wearing your skin. That's not random. That's your soul making its way back. Because here's the thing, your reflection doesn't always show you who you are. Sometimes it shows you who you had to be to survive. And that version? She kept you safe. He got you through. They did their job. But now, you're not trying to survive anymore. You're trying to remember. And that's where the haunting begins. Not with ghosts, but with the realization that you've been living as someone else's echo. That the people who said they loved you for you only really loved the version of you that mirrored them back to themselves. It's a devastating kind of grief. To realize the love you were fed was conditional. That the reflection they cherished wasn't you, just a projection they found comfortable. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Suddenly, the compliments sound like warnings. Don't change, stay the same. Translation: keep reflecting me, don't become real. Suddenly, relationships start to crack. You stop laughing on cue, you say no without guilt, you reclaim your time, your boundaries, your energy, and they start to look at you like your mirror is broken. But it's not broken. It's just not for them anymore, it's for you. So when you find yourself asking, why do I feel so unknown? Why do I feel like no one really sees me? Know this. That feeling isn't loneliness. That's you standing in your own reflection for the first time. Without filters. Without apologies. Without shrinking to fit. It's unsettling. It's powerful. It's necessary. Because the haunting doesn't come from your past. It comes from all the parts of you that want to return. Let them in. Let them speak. Let them show you who you were before the world told you who to be. There's always a moment. And it never feels how you think it will. It's not always loud. It might not even look dramatic from the outside. But inside you, it's catastrophic. You could be washing dishes, reading a text, staring out the window, and something in you just breaks. A crack, a glitch, a thought that hits different than it ever has before. I don't know who I am anymore. That's the moment, the shatter point. It might follow a betrayal, or a loss, or an unexplainable exhaustion that suddenly feels ancient. Sometimes it comes as a slow ache. Other times it shows up like an earthquake, but the impact is the same. Your old self collapses, not all at once, but enough to make you question every memory you've ever believed about yourself. The confidence you wore like armor, turns out it was anxiety in disguise. The independence you were praised for, it was self-abandonment in a pretty outfit. The peace you thought you had, it was you dissociating like a damn pro, and you start asking dangerous questions. Was any of it real? Did they ever truly love me, or just the version I made easy to love? How much of my life has been a reaction? It's dizzying. You start replaying old conversations and seeing the manipulation. You revisit past choices and realize how many were made out of fear, not freedom. You look in the mirror and don't trust the eyes looking back. And the most painful part? There's no one to blame. Not really, because you were just surviving, making sense of chaos the best way you knew how. But now, survival doesn't feel like enough. Pretending doesn't soothe the ache. Success feels empty. Small talk feels violent, and fine feels like a lie you can't stomach anymore. This is ego exposure. It's not the death of the ego. No, the ego doesn't die that easy. It screams, it clings, it performs even harder, tries to seduce you back into the role, but you see it now. You see the machinery, the pattern, the loop, the mask, and once you see it, you can't go back to pretending you don't. It's like suddenly noticing the strings on a puppet you thought was alive, realizing you've been mouthing the words but never writing the script, feeling like a stranger in the story you helped build. This is the unraveling, and it's terrifying. Because you're not just grieving people, you're grieving versions of yourself that were never real, but felt real enough to hurt when they leave. Let them leave. Don't chase the fragments. Don't beg the mirror to reassemble. This isn't a breakdown. It's a reckoning. After the shatter, you're left with pieces. They don't fall neatly. They don't come labeled. They don't ask your permission. They just cut. A memory you hadn't thought about in years shows up out of nowhere. A smell, a song, a sentence someone said offhandedly suddenly slices through your chest. You flinch, not physically, energetically. Because healing doesn't always feel like light. Sometimes it feels like exposure, like all your old wounds are screaming to be acknowledged at the same time. The pieces don't wait for your convenience. They show up in public. They show up at 3 a.m. They show up while you're trying to do something normal, like fold laundry or answer a text. 1 minute you're fine. The next, you're holding back tears because a song reminded you of who you had to be, just to feel loved. This is the part of the journey that feels like regression, but it's not. It's resurfacing, the child version of you who got dismissed, the teenager who learned to numb, the adult who pretended confidence was the same thing as clarity. All of them are here now, showing you where the original fracture started. It hurts. Of course it does, because when the mirror broke, it didn't just shatter lies, it shattered your protections too, and now you're raw, exposed, remembering things you wish you could unremember, but here's the truth you've earned. Those pieces, they're not here to punish you. They're here to return you to yourself. That anger that's surfacing, it's sacred. It's the boundary you never got to have. That sadness, it's not weakness, it's the grief of realizing how much of your life you lived in survival mode. And the numbness, that's your nervous system asking for stillness for the first time in years. You were never broken, just layered with coping, conditioning, silence, and spiritual makeup to make it all look okay. But now you're standing in the ruins of your former self, and here's the twist, you're not lost. You're closer than ever, because now there's nothing left to maintain, nothing left to prove, nothing left to edit. It's just you and the fragments that know your name. Let them cut, let them speak, let them show you who you were before you became who they needed you to be. This is sacred pain, not to destroy you, but to carve out space for what's real. At some point, the panic slows, the questions soften, the ache doesn't vanish, but it becomes familiar. You're not healed, you're not whole, you're not back to normal, but you've stopped expecting to be, because now you understand there is no going back. Not to who you were, not to who they remember, not to the mirror that cracked wide open and spilled all your illusions onto the floor. And strangely, that brings peace. You stop checking for approval. You stop rehearsing your answers. You stop shape-shifting for spaces you were never meant to fit inside. You become quiet, not numb, not shut down, but present. There's a stillness now, one that doesn't ask for performance. And in that stillness, you begin to meet someone new, someone who doesn't smile on command. Someone who doesn't explain their boundaries like disclaimers. Someone who feels more like home than any mirror ever did. You, the mirrorless self. Who are you without an audience? Who are you when no one's watching? What do you love when no one is grading your joy? What feels true, not because it makes sense to others, but because it hums deep in your bones? These aren't easy questions, but they're real. And real is worth more than polished, because the truth is, when you no longer depend on reflection, you stop performing and start remembering. You remember how it felt to breathe without clenching, to speak without shrinking, to exist without explanation. You don't need a mirror anymore. You've become your own witness. And that's the most radical thing you can do in a world desperate to keep you performing. Not healing for Instagram, not pretending for peace, not numbing to be functional, just existing. Messy, sacred, real. It's a strange kind of freedom, to no longer be mirrored, but to be known by your own soul. And you're starting to feel it, aren't you? Not fully, not constantly, but like a whisper in the back of your ribs. This is you. And it doesn't need to be pretty. It just needs to be yours. Now that the mirror has shattered, what's left? Silence maybe, space, stillness, and strangely, peace. Not the kind they sell in books, not the kind that needs crystals or a caption, but the kind that lives in the body, in the exhale, in the knowing. You've seen the fracture, you've survived the shatter, you've sat with the bleeding pieces and didn't run, and that matters more than any mirror ever could. You no longer need a reflection to confirm your existence. You're not begging for belonging in rooms that require your erasure. You're not watching their eyes to feel worthy. You're watching your own soul reassemble in the quiet. This is the part no one talks about. The part after the awakening, after the tears, after the purge. It's not glamorous, it's not trending, it's not loud, but it's real. This is what closing the loop looks like, not tying it up neatly, but allowing it to remain unfinished, open-ended. True, because truth doesn't always come with closure, but it does come with choice. So here's yours. Start a mirror journal, no prompts, no structure. Just pages that let your truth exist. Write down the dreams you can't explain, the thoughts that make no sense but feel like something, the moments that keep repeating, the things that hurt when no one is around. This is your evidence, your breadcrumb trail back to the self you buried beneath all the masks. And then play the frequency, 963 Hertz. The crown chakra, not for healing, but for remembrance. Let it hold you, not to fix you, but to witness you. Because sometimes, what you need isn't a breakthrough. It's a soft place to land. You're not broken. You're blooming in a place most people fear to touch. You're not empty. You're just finally quiet enough to hear the voice beneath the noise. And if the mirror ever calls you back, don't answer. Let them see your absence. Let them wonder. Let them sit in the reflection you refuse to become again. You're not their mirror anymore. You're your own light. Tap the link below for your sound drop. 963 Hertz, Witness Without a Mirror. A meditation designed for this exact moment. Let it guide you into the silence that knows your name. Start your mirror journal today. No filters, no rules, just truth. Comment below, what did the cracked mirror show you? And if you're still in the ruins of your former self, breathe. You're not behind. You're becoming.